Let's kick it off. So good morning to everybody in North America and South America and wherever you guys are. Good afternoon or good evening for the people in Europe and further away. Today we've invited our community and software vendors and software developers to talk about, what's going on in the world. I think that doesn't need any explanation. So maybe Ron, you can switch to the next slide and I'll do a quick introduction of the people that we've invited for today. So first of all, we've invited all of you guys. We'd like to make this as interactive as possible in Zoom, which is a bit new to us, maybe to you guys as well. You will have the possibility to raise your hand, so to speak. And if you do so, we can unmute you. And feel free to do that. Feel free to contribute as much as you like. There's also a chat panel, probably on your right-hand side. You can post questions there. We will monitor those and make sure that you get an answer to those as far as we can, obviously. Then we've got Suzanne. Suzanne is helping us to moderate this today. Suzanne, wave to us, then we know it's you. There you go. Well, you're also the only woman on the panel, I think, so it's easy to spot you. Suzanne is helping us a lot, and a lot of other companies with marketing, with content writing, with blogging, and yeah, she's kind of an expert in the IT world as well. So this should be fun to have her help us out. And thank you for joining us, Suzanne. Then we've got John Ruby. John, can you wave to us? Yay. John is in Canada, works for a large ERP vendor in Canada, and will help us out today in the panel as well. Then we've got Karel. Karel, let's see, I got to scroll.
I'm just starting my video. Can you see me? I'm just working from home. I don't see myself. It's maybe better.
Can you wave to us? Yeah, I think I can see you. Yeah, there's Karel. So Karel works for Globus, big software company in Belgium, also an ERP, a big ERP application. Then we've got Michael Swan with Portfolio Plus. Yeah, you're easy to spot. There's a big portfolio sign behind you, Michael. Good morning. Michael is in Canada as well.
Good morning.
Applications in the banking industry, and thanks for joining us. I'll skip Ron. I'll go to Rutger immediately. Hi, Rutger. Rutger is with a Dutch software vendor, multiple applications, and also a lot of applications in the non-profit kind of industry. Thanks for joining us, Rutger. And then the one that I skipped, Ron Vandenberg, our CEO. Ron, can you wave to us as well? Looks like you're in Chicago or New York.
The virtual background, sorry. It's a big mess behind me, so I have to hide it. I'm working from home.
Yep. Awesome. Well, thanks all for joining us. I think I saw Sean Devlin in the video as well. He's in space.
Hi. Yep.
Sean is our product manager, and most of you guys know him from all the videos and all the webinars that he does every other week. So thanks for joining us, Sean.
Pleasure.
Ron, shall I hand it over to you? I see there are people chatting already in the bottom.
Good. Yeah, for me, maybe a short introduction. Yeah, these are extraordinary times. I heard somebody yesterday saying in the news, this is the worst we've gone through except for war. But whether that's worse or not, I don't know. So really extraordinary times. So we were talking amongst the boy, what should we do about this? And then we came to the idea that our community, which is like we share stuff with Servoy World and tech webinars and stuff like that. These are all similar companies which share similar markets and probably similar ideas. Let's try to bring everybody together and discuss what such extraordinary times mean to us and to you. So for us, yeah, it's really like a roundtable. We don't try to present anything here. We just try to bring everybody together and hopefully get inspiration out of it on how you can handle these extraordinary times and maybe be able to even pivot it. So yeah, like I said, I'm a participant. That's why we invited Suzanne to moderate this. And yeah, let's raise your hands if you have anything to say, and we'll try to moderate that. So yeah, great that everybody is here. A nice number of entities, by the way. So Suzanne, go ahead.
Well, thanks everybody for joining today. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. Well, I actually want to introduce everybody. I guess we already kind of did that, but so some of the things that we wanted to talk about today are what's happening with people? What are your current challenges? And how are you responding just right now? And maybe sort of brainstorm about those topics. And I think Rutger had some really good ideas about that earlier when we were talking.
Ideas, yeah. Of course, we have all have to. Yeah, this is a very strange situation that the most part of the world has the same situation, to stay at home and try to manage the situation. And yeah, what we see is that at least we are lucky that we are technical companies and we're used to work from remotely using video conferencing. So technically, that was not a big step. Of course, emotionally it is that all our people are working from home. So yeah, what we did from the start is do as much proactive communication, not only to our own people, of course, in a formal way, but also more informal way, because we miss the office, etc. But also to our customers, to say, okay, we are still there. We want to help you. We can also help you by setting up video conferencing. And if there are already meeting plans with us, please avoid to cancel them, because we really want to help them to continue our work as good as possible.
Yeah, that's great. I think, John, did you have some thoughts on this as well? I think you did some very specific things.
Yeah, I mean, we've done a lot of things. If anybody's heard I guess it's I am a dog with a particular bone, and my bone is that I think software companies are all about their teams and all about their people. So we've done a lot of things to support our people working from home. Yes, we sent them all home with their equipment. Anybody who was missing anything, we actually bought extra screens and chairs and stuff for people to make them more comfortable working at home. It was the best investment, best return on investment you get. You spend a few $1,000s and you end up with enormous goodwill and positive energy back from the team. So that was a no-brainer. But we also found that we nominated a couple of our team members to check in with people to see how their emotional and mental health was doing. And we started hosting things like group stretching activities a couple times a day. And some people keep some of these remote meetings open all day just so that they have the feeling of that they're working in a group all the time. We do on Friday. We usually serve beer on Friday afternoons. I know a lot of people. I've talked to Carl about this exactly. That the team kind of gets together. Well, it's hard to get together when you can't be in the same room. So everybody went and put on a Hawaiian shirt, and we all had a beer together on Friday afternoons. And there's a theme. Really, it's more about just people feeling like somebody's looking out for them. One of the other things that we did is this is sort of the week 3 that we've had everybody working from home. We sent out surveys at the end of each week to ask people how they were doing, how we were doing for them, things like that. And so we're tracking metrics over time, how people are saying they're doing. So more than anything else, it was just having people in charge of and having it almost be their full-time job to think about the welfare of the team. It took us years to build the team that we have, and they're I'd say, our most valuable asset. So I don't want this thing destroying that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. One of the things that I think we had talked about earlier was that it's really important to show empathy, just human empathy, and how can you be helpful. And I think that Rutger had a really good point when he was talking about, you just pick up the phone, the head of your company calls up your clients and customers and talk to them directly and just say, what are we doing that we're not, how can we help, and how are you? I do think that's a really important message.
True, and the customers are positive about it, that we call them and notice that we are, or show them we are there for them. Yes.
Well, I would like to add to that there's kind of a new team spirit. So people are very working closely together, although we're working from home. But the way we communicate now is much more structured than it was before. So we are really working very hard, I think, from home. But from the other side, it is somewhat more comfortable to have a period that you don't have to get into the car mornings early in the morning, get into the traffic jams. So there is kind of a big pause button. So I'm really worried about the midterm and long-term consequences for our company, for the sales cycles, etc., for the economy. But at this time, everybody is feeling quite okay with the situation. And we are feeling that we are a very strong team now, and we are much more at ease, much more comfortable with the things we are doing. So there is kind of, between all the human tragedies, there's kind of a positive side also to everything what is happening. And that is what I would like to add here.
Yeah, that's a great point. And Graham Greensall was commenting in the chat. He's saying that the challenge for all of us is that many clients will emerge weaker financially and with fewer staff. So how can we support this? And I think that's obvious. There's going to be a lot of knee-jerk reactions about cutting people maybe, or how can they do these immediate cost-cutting sort of tactics. But then let's say in 6 to 8 months when this thing turns around, how can we help our customers be ready to seize those opportunities? But Graham has a good point. Does any of the panelists want to talk about how we can support clients right now in this weaker situation that they're going to be in financially?
I see Michael leaning forward. I was going to say something. Michael, are you going to say something because you were leaning forward?
Well, I mean, and my line is some of that was already been talked about is as much as we're all really focusing on making sure that we're staying well connected with our employees and making sure they're engaged, as all of us have gone to work at home, it's making sure we're doing the same thing with our clients, and also understanding that our clients' priorities are going to change during this. So resetting as to what's really going to be of value to them. One of the reasons that I'm talking about this team, has been successful is that we are technology people, and we've been able to lever the technology to be able to work from home and keep things running. And so how do we help our clients? How do we help them understand, how can we make sure that we've got those strong relationships and we're over communicating, and that they know that we're there as a partner to help them as well to get through this and what their priorities are going to be. And I think that's critical because, again, priorities are going to change.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to not sell, obviously, anything. This is, like you said, Michael, it's really an opportunity to show, a trusted, partner, we're in this together type of message.
I think there's actually something, Michael and I were talking about this earlier this week. There's two that's what's on the slide, right? There's two ways you might want to go, right? You might want to say, okay, it's scary. It's time to batten down the hatches, time to not to conserve capital, to stop growing, or to even shrink a little bit so that you can survive however long this goes. And I think that's a totally valid opportunity, right? Your customers are going to shrink. You might have to shrink in response. But if you are in a position, I believe that there's opportunity in chaos. And some of the greatest success stories happen when people take advantage of change, right? I actually, and this is something I keep saying in a lot of these conversations, I think what ends up happening is people keep talking about when things are going to get back to normal. I hear that over and over and over again. And I don't think things are ever going to get back to normal. I think normal is going to change. I think our perspective on, whereas talk about cloud-based software was always something that, yeah, that's cool, but it's not the top of my priority list. Suddenly it's a lot more important to people than it was 6 months ago. Communication, structured communication, like Carl said, it's more important now than it ever was. And a lot of these things are changing. So at least for our part, we're trying to take the opportunity to, instead of lay people off, we're actually trying to hire. We're trying to adjust our product catalog and deliver more products. For example, we do a lot of work with the back end of Amazon, and it seems to me that home delivery and e-commerce is going to grow even more than it already has as a percentage of the economy. So we want to get on that trend. So we're shifting to do things like that. So I guess taking advantage of the change so that when people come out from their bunkers and start thinking commercially, we are in a position to take advantage of the new normal.
Yeah, I think that's a really important message of positivity. And I think when you talk to your customers and you hear what's top of mind with them, that's going to help you, companies adjust to help supporting them. So if we look at another topic that we had discussed, we were talking about, and I think we've already touched on this, is employees really are our number one asset. And how are we going to take care of them? And we did, Rutger, you had mentioned that, you were just seeing how people were, how they were doing, checking in on them. And what are some other things that you guys have done to, make sure everyone's doing okay and that they're performing? And
yeah, for us it's comparable with what John did. We asked him, okay, do you have good situation at home to work from? Do you have a good chair? Do you have a monitor? That kind of things. But also to tell them we don't have a big office, so we tell them it's not the office, at least in the Netherlands, is not a danger zone. So when you organize yourself, you can go there. Not everyone, but in average there are 3 or 4 or 5 people in the office, and they manage together, because sometimes say, okay, it's better that I'm not at home because my children are running around. And also be more flexible in time. Some of people prefer to work outside of office hours because they have children and they have to help their children with schoolwork, etc. And also in very interesting informal communication. I see very nice emails to the email digest, everyone sees in the company, photos about the home situation, some fun, some jokes also, so not only sad. So that's also important, that there's an informal communication going on as well. And what we also do is a lot of people make small notes of what they are doing during the day, a kind of diary, let's say. And we use that for 2 or 3 times a week. We send a message to everyone to tell, okay, what happened, because we missed the office, so we missed the coffee machine, let's say. So also we communicate that part as well proactively. We as management say, okay, this happens with this customer, and we had a good meeting there. And so we proactively communicate a lot now to the more times a week for things what are happening. about customers, for instance.
A quick thing to add, I didn't even realize was right at the beginning, when we told people to work from home, there was an enormous amount of fear that there were going to be layoffs. So I sent out a message, which to me was just normal course, and saying, listen, we're okay. We don't have any layoffs planned. That's not happening. We're all right and you're all right. And I thought it was no big deal. I got overwhelming feedback from my team, people saying how they appreciated that because they didn't even realize that they were scared until they saw that, and then they felt better. They had partners, family members who had been laid off and lost their jobs, so they felt really good hearing. Like if you can assure them that they're not going to lose their jobs, that's something that they want to hear.
We have David Pierce also who wants to say something. David, go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me, Ron?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and this sort of goes beyond what Jonah was saying, I think this situation has actually, and I think it's something which we won't be able to turn back, but it's given us a very rapid and much more intimate knowledge of our employees and their home situations and their personal lives. And you know, we had one of our employees in the time when we were sort of increasing distancing and looking to move to home, said he was pending a diagnosis of sarcoidosis, which obviously is a life-changing disease. Another one has got a parent who's 60 miles away, who's potentially having a heart attack. Another one's having a lot more problems with one of her children than we ever knew about. So I think actually there is a sort of a business-changing moment where this situation allows us, but by its nature, to know a lot more about the real lives of our employees. And as I said, I don't think that's something we can turn back. And I think it's a good thing, because it allows us to be much better employers now. But going into the future, it potentially allows us to build much stronger teams, because, you know, the two can't, you know, life at home and life at work can't really ever be unlinked, as we always try. So I think there's a real opportunity here, which has sort of thrust itself on us, and to actually, you know, be totally flexible as we have to be now. And the second thing actually is I'm not sure we'll ever go back to the way of full office working, because I think, I mean, I've been more productive in the last 10 days than I think I've been for about a year, because a lot of the rubbish has got out of the way, and you can focus at home on a lot more things than sometimes the noise of the office. And I think having our employees at home, who some of them never trusted to be at home previously, actually will develop a much more dynamic relationship between office and home working.
Yeah, David, that's a really good point. I feel like maybe one of the things that could be helpful to employees is helping them learn how to work at home and be productive. You know, there's a lot of webinars out there about, you know, how to compartmentalize, and I think that's I mean, some of us are used to working at home, but a lot of people that are new to it, they find it, you know, challenging. It becomes, you know, 24/7, you know, just a lot. You need to know how to be efficient, I think, and it's a mindset. So there is going to be a transitional period there, I think.
Sure.
What we did, we are pure software development company, but we do also the consulting services, the implementation services. We see now that from the implementation side, the effectiveness is going rapidly down. So we can't go on site, have workshops with customers. So we see that we are in certain phases of implementations where we got stuck. So instead of laying off people, we just told our people that we are going for a temporary, for 1 month on a temporary basis. So for 1 month on a 60% work, and 40% is mostly paid by the government. So kind of an unemployment, technical unemployment. And it's just flattening the curve. It's we have, in fact, we have work enough, but the most urgent work is done. We see the effectiveness of some things slipping because we can't go together with our customers, put things live, tests on the work floor, do training, group training, etc. So instead of burning all the outstanding work and getting stuck, we said, okay, let's build in some kind of solidarity between all teams, because development we have a full workload for development for the coming months till the end of the year at least. But also there they have to communicate. So we say, okay, from now on we're going to work for 1 month, 4 days in a week, but only 6 hours a day. And then we have a rotating scheme that not everybody is not working on Friday or Mondays. So it's kind of a in-between mix between not laying off, being very solidaire between each other, and still getting the costs down, waiting for the crisis to go by, and getting back on track with our customers and continuing on-site implementation. So that's kind of a different scenario.
Yeah, that is. I think we were looking for Jeremy to comment. Jeremy, can you speak? Are you there?
Can you all hear me? Perfect.
Yes.
So yeah, we have a little bit of a different situation. So our primary cash flow is from what we would consider physical ops, tape reading, tape transformation. You know, the type of work that you can't really do remotely based off well, I don't have any 9-track readers sitting in my house or 3580s, but what we have tried to do is free up some of the physical space within our operation centers by moving the R&D side of the world, the QA and development off to working from home, which has benefited the company as a whole for as much as we can with cash flow coming in from our clients. But what I've noticed in the last 2.5, 3 weeks of working from home is that one of the biggest risks that I'm seeing from my team worldwide is now that we have, and this is something that I'm actively trying to draw attention to when I meet with my folks, have my virtual coffees, have my open, as much as you can have a virtually open door meeting room set up, is reminding people that now that you're at home, there is no, I think one of the comments earlier was that we don't have to get into traffic. We don't have to do the commute, and we don't have the specified hours in the same way that we used to have going to the office. And while that is a benefit, because people can now, you know, spend a little bit more time sleeping, get up, drop into a call, drop into a meeting, or get onto work almost immediately. What I'm noticing with my team is that there is a higher percentage of folks not turning off. So while we see a huge amount of value right now, and the amount of work and the amount of focus that's been applied over the last 2 weeks is very high comparative to, you know, even 2-3 weeks ago, we are getting to a stage where we're running the risk of having severe burnout just because people forget, or people don't think about the fact that, well, I'm sitting here on my computer and I'm doing my job and I'm doing, you know, whatever development work that I needed to do, but suddenly it's 6 o'clock in the evening, or suddenly it's 10 o'clock in the evening, and time has passed by. And that's the one thing that I'm really trying to draw attention to with my team, is just, you know what, this is still a work-life, there still needs to be a work-life balance rather. And we really need to make sure that we're paying attention to ourselves to make sure that, you know, work your hours, but and work what needs to get done, but still have a break and mentally shut yourself off from work, just to maintain that level of what I call kind of like sanity, if you will, from what was going on.
Indeed.
Right. And we had a couple of people wanted to comment really quick, Jeremy, because you just brought up a lot of things. Michael, I think you were next, and then we had a couple other people wanted to comment.
So Jeremy, and this is a challenge for any company that people are moving to work from home who've never really done it before or anything like that. It's too easy to especially when you consider a lot of people who aren't working at home in the past, maybe sitting in their basement on a laptop screen, and they go down at 7 in the morning and they're still there at 7 at night and don't even realize that they've been there all day or seen the light of day. Whereas when you are going to the office, you're naturally going to stand up and walk around and see other people and have light through the windows. And I find it's really important to almost force people to have breaks in their schedule, almost schedule them, that they have to get up and do something else. And I like what John mentioned earlier about having virtual stretching sessions and a few things like that. It's really important to build some of those in until people get used to the new normal of working from home. I know there are companies that have, are completely officeless, and this is part of the culture that eventually changes into it. But for people just getting into it, it's an absolute concern. And then it's really, what structure do you put in place to try to break it?
Yeah, that's all really good point. Good points. We had another attendee, Robert Ivans. He has a good point, and I don't know if he's muted or not. But his comment was a lot of companies are already doing this, but for those who aren't, it offers some challenges. Robert, did you want to comment? I think you might be on mute.
No, he's unmuted if he wants to talk. Maybe not.
Trying. Hello? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, like I think Mike already said, that there are other companies that already are officeless. And in my comment I made, I gave an example of a company called GitLab, which is a company that has employees working worldwide, and even the CEO is actually working from home. And what they and GitLab is pretty transparent about how they work. They even put their company handbook online. You can read how their company works, and even per department even. So if you go to about.gitlab.com/handbook, then you can read all about that.
Thanks. Yeah, one thing I would like to share about this is that we have some people who both of them work at home and they have young kids. So basically what they're doing is they have to juggle the schedule. I think what's really important about when working from home, but even working in a situation like this, is that you have like upfront a real schema of what you do. Otherwise, people always feel that they're behind. And also be open about that. So even if you can't make 8 hours a day, I think as a company, we have to ask our employees how this is for them, rather than they kind of trying to not hide it, but say, yeah, you knew it, right? I think it's better to open up the discussion and be transparent about it. And I think we as employers need to start that discussion rather than having them to tell that. Like I said, we have some people where both in the family work and have young kids. And yeah, there is not 16 hours in a day, right? You can't both work 8 hours unless you start really, really early or work really, really late. And I think that's also not very healthy for a person. So yeah, we just started that discussion with some people here.
Yeah, it was interesting to me when we were talking earlier about some of the well, the good side of working from home is also kind of the negative in that, you know, you're isolated, kind of like we're all feeling right now. So what are some ways other than the stretching and, you know, are there John, I think you were talking about the sort of virtual happy hour type of thing. Are there other ways, like maybe, you know, you have, how do you make people feel like they're part of the team when they're all remote? You know, what other ideas do you have, if any?
Well, we do a bunch of stuff on top of that. Like I said earlier, the key thing was just making sure that there are a couple people whose full-time job it is just to think about the rest of the team. We already had a bunch of, like, we have a staff meeting like an all hands meeting every week, and we have everybody show up to the sprint demo and do a little bit of their own demoing and things like that. But I think that the people with kids is a very, very common issue, and it's just, I think Ron is right. You just have to accommodate time-wise. You can't have, two parents can't work 100% of the time. But we found another, and like what David said, you learn things about people. We have a lot of very young people, sort of in their developers and other staff members in their 20s who, are, I guess, financially secure enough now that they live on their own, but they don't have partners or children. And that's caused another problem, which is they're completely alone, right? They're in a room and they don't have, or even more, we have a lot of people who, Canada's very much a country with a lot of people from like different places all over the world, a lot of immigration. So people with no local family support system. So yeah, checking up on them and trying to find ways for them to interact with each other, both at a personal level and a professional level, is something. And we have a group where people are posting pictures of the cactuses that they're planting, the succulents and cactuses that they're planted together. People who are talking about, they play this online word Scrabble app against each other. We've created virtual chess things, people playing games with each other. People are watching Netflix. Apparently you could watch Netflix movies together. I don't understand exactly how that works, but anyways, people watch Netflix movies together and comment with each other. So we are suddenly in a space where we are caring for far more of the person than just their work, their vacation, their pay, that kind of stuff. That's how we used to handle it. Now it's essentially, you just have to think of it as it's their benefits package has grown massively and you have to manage that.
Yeah, your company sounds like a really great, I want to work for you. Sounds really fun. So I don't know if we have any more comments about employees, but I think maybe we want to keep going on some of these other topics. And I think we've touched on some of the messaging. We've talked about some of the messages we want to share to customers. And I think what I'm hearing is that you can't over communicate, right? So keep the lines of communication open, and helpfulness, not selling, and then listening and keeping an ear out for what's going to be of use for customers in the future. And then I think we haven't really talked about ways that, because we are in technology, and there were some challenges mentioned already about you didn't have everything you need to do like a demo or whatever, but maybe we talk about some of those type of things. Okay, we are positioned well as an industry to go digital and work remotely. What are the advantages, and what are we did talk about some of these, but have we really covered everything? Advantages and disadvantages when working with our customers and their customers.
Well, there's something that Carol said earlier about how consulting is harder, right? When you can't be in person, right? Because a lot of those things work better in person. So our team has come up and done some research and working on these interactive self-guided teaching tools, right? So you use them to help distributors learn or partners learn your product, customers learn your product, but also for consulting engagements, we're experimenting. I don't know how well it's going to work yet, but we're experimenting with sending out some of the questions and interactive stuff, trying to find ways to change the format so you could still do the things you were doing before, but take a different approach. We've been, trying to find ways that, like, you think of it as like a technology perspective. It's better to do things synchronously if you can, but sometimes you can't. So trying to find ways to do asynchronous communication to achieve similar ends. We've been trying to do stuff like that.
Yeah, That sounds really, really cool. What about things like, you know, having your demos ready and maybe doing like, I don't know, not virtual reality, but are there some technologies that maybe not this moment, but in the future will help help you with your customers?
Well, I think with screen sharing and all the tools we were using, Microsoft Teams and Zoom, etc., we were pretty familiar with them. But now also our customers are accepting it. So they're less used to working digitally, and we push the envelope a little bit. So we try to do some consulting offsite. It isn't as effective in some cases, but I think, yeah, a lot of it will keep on going after the crisis. So I think we can save a lot of miles per year just now by our customers, our business partners being used to doing so much calls, team meetings online to get the jokes in between. So we're getting used to it and we're feeling quite well with it. And for sometimes, of course, we need to still go on site, and for signing a contract and doing final negotiations, we will still go on site. But now it's so handy to just open a meeting and share screens. And yeah, or now our customers are getting used to this. So this is a great evolution for us.
Yeah, I think a crisis like this really helps to really change stuff like this, which was kind of luring in the background. One of my friends is a psychiatrist, and 99% of her consults are now via Skype. And so I think if you as a psychiatrist can help somebody, I think a lot of things we do, because Servoy also does consulting on site, I think a lot of stuff we do can also more stuff can be done. And I think after this crisis is over, a lot of that stuff will continue the way it is, because yeah, it doesn't make sense for a lot of stuff to get into the car or a plane.
Yeah, true.
Right. It's almost like going digital is no longer an option. I mean, it's no longer optional, meaning everyone's going to have to, you know, ramp up their digital technology and transformation strategy. Here we go. That's perfect. So some of the other things we wanted to talk about with our panelists and also with attendees is, so for the future, what are we hearing from our customers? What's interesting to them, and what do we think is going to make sense to, you know, in the near future and maybe over the long term? Because as we've mentioned, this is a game changer. Everything is disrupted. It's not ever going to be business as usual. So.
I'll throw something. We've made some strategic adjustments on the roadmap a little bit in the sense of just at a big picture scale. An ERP has a lot of functionality and feature sets, and people are always demanding more, and they want detailed MRP and the ability to add different ship dates per, like all that kind of stuff. And we've deprioritized some of those stories in favor of things that allow for more robust scaling on the DevOps side. In other words, our product working 100% reliably all the time with no downtime, you know, bulletproof, with people working in 12 different countries any time of day or night, has become more important than the ability for people in the head office to get slightly more automation in one of their existing tasks. So that has shifted our roadmap focus. And like I said earlier, we actually created a new packaging product offering for delivering things that make more sense for a different market segment. So yeah, definitely rethinking our roadmap based on the new normal.
And to add on that, and a comment I made a bit earlier about really listening to your customers and that their priorities are possibly going to be changing. So we provide digital core banking software, and of course in Canada and as well for in the world, a lot of regulations are very rapidly changing. as well as the ability to very quickly do some what were manual processes before that were later on in the roadmap, absolutely need to be automated, because there's nobody in the office, even at our customers, to be able to do these manual processes anymore. So again, it's that really listening and understand, even short term, how do we reorganize what we're doing to deliver the highest value so we can meet, again, the new financial regulations that are coming through, and we can support our customers as best as possible.
Yeah, Michael, that's a really good point. I'm just curious, when you say listening, I'm wondering, how do you capture that information? I mean, I know sometimes it's one-on-one, but I'm curious to know if you'd ever use something like just a survey, like SurveyMonkey, just to go, hey, just want to check in, or is it more casual than that?
So I mean, we've been doing more directly with our customers, making sure that we have that direct interaction. Our strategic account managers, our executives, all of us are having direct interaction to find out what's most important, and making sure that, again, going back to that comment of we're all in this together. And having that true partnership. A lot of us, I think, on this call will probably have long-term customers they've built deep relationships with. Those are the ones you really want to stay tight with and make sure that everyone's coming along together.
Right, and I love the message of we're all in this together, but also it's going to end, and yeah, we're going to have a new normal, but we're going to be here. We're here with you in the bad times and the good. So I think that's a really important message. I think we have some comments. Maybe we can unmute Graham again. I think he's got a really good point about this moment in time. Graham, are you there?
Yep, hi. Are you able to hear me all right?
Yes.
Yeah, my point was that the disruption is a really big opportunity to cement the relationships we have with clients. We've been assisting people who are not used to home working, modifying logins because fewer people are on the system, and therefore people need wider range of access, and offering extended credit. Fortunately, we're in a position to do this. And what I found is that with all the other problems people who are employing 20, 30 people have, just offering this up front without them having to ask makes a really big difference.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. So again, it ties in with that hidden, like not even hidden opportunities, but how can we turn this moment into, you know, a good thing?
But I think there's still a big risk for a kind of a financial crisis. So we're talking now very positive about customers and cementing relationships, etc. But what if this turns out to be an economic disaster where people need to fight for their lives? So maybe in our case as a software vendor, and people depending on our software for existing customers, they can't change overnight if we have kind of a lock-in. But for acquiring new deals, which require us a considerable amount of CapEx, what will the situation be the coming 12 months? Will there be cash available at customers, and will they spend it on further digitization? Or will they just cut down on costs and try to survive in their core business and go back to their old systems and cut out and carve out all the inefficient parts? So not to be too pessimistic, but let's be realistic. It's not going to be, okay, the crisis is over, everything, economy is going well. We're heading for a potential very hard and tough 12 months to get out of this crisis from a business standpoint.
Carrie, you're definitely correct. There's no question there's going to be a massive crash to the economy. I think the only thing we could do is find ways, like there are essentials, right? There are things that people can't live without. that's where the economy is going to shift to for some period of time. And like I said, an example of how things are changing is delivery systems. For example, if you make a logistics tool for helping delivery companies deliver things that are purchased in an e-commerce environment, that's a software area that's going to grow and people are going to spend more money on. We've seen economic contraction in the past. Oftentimes software actually gets a boost because people lean on software to replace human costs. So they're like, you're absolutely right that our normal customer cash flow, I'm convinced, is going to shift and dry up, and we should get out ahead of it rather than just be surprised when something we know, we're standing on the tracks and we're not sure if the light that we're seeing is the end of the tunnel or it's the train coming right at us. But regardless, I think it's wise to get off the tracks.
Yeah, I think it's good to have an onboarding that is as smooth and as cost efficient as possible. So we still, as Globis, have a lot of work on that, and getting away from large complex implementations, and getting the onboarding with tools, with onboarding tools like WalkMe. We're looking at that, so that it makes it a lot more user friendly, and then start small and grow from time to time, grow in other users, other functionalities. But getting the capex down to close to zero, and just having a small operational cost each month. And I think that is the way where people will still looking at switching to new software. But the big ERP projects that cost hundreds of thousands for implementations, I think for the next 12 to 18 months, there will be much less.
I think we lost you there a little bit, but I think your point was really well taken. So I feel like one of the things we need to say is, to everyone's point, is that things are rapidly changing, right? So you have to be always listening to your customer, ready for worst case and best case scenarios. And also, before we go on and open it up to questions and comments with everybody, Jeremy had a really good point. I don't know if you're unmuted or not, Jeremy, but here you are.
Was this part of my comment on leveraging AI and automation for our core workflow? Yeah. So to tag on to John's comment, one of the things that we're finding, some of our larger clients that are still investing in certain areas, they're really trying to challenge us as a key vendor in their workflow is to use other technologies to help support the key workflows that we're already doing, that might be a blend of semi-automated or manual intervention. So they're challenging us to look at how do we leverage AI, how do we leverage process workflow automation to take the bits and pieces of our kit that are currently being used and streamline them so that we can apply that from anywhere in the world to their databases and their key areas of work, and really try to get the information in, managed, processed, and pushed out to their consumers in a far more streamlined and less overhead cost intensive model. That kind of ties into the other side of this, which is how do we leverage existing public and semi-public cloud offerings to transition content from one place in the world to others, leveraging the same model and methodology.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So did we want to open it up, Ron, to just general Q&A and comments from our attendees? I'll just comment on that screen. There you go. So if anyone has any questions or comments, we would love to hear that right now. And hopefully this has been a helpful session for everyone. So I guess we don't really have any, let me see if maybe we do. Okay, so we do have a question from Richard Clark. And he's saying most of our customers supply hotels, restaurants, and a few have closed, but the rest are open. I don't know, Richard, are you able to just speak? Because I can either share your question or comment, or you can directly say it. I guess he's maybe left. So what he was saying is we have monthly support contracts. Is it reasonable to expect them to pay? It seems like in the UK, a lot of companies are withholding payment to hang on to their cash. And that's a really great question. Did you guys hear?
Yep. It's a potential danger. Recurring revenues would be stopped. Payments would stop for a couple of months. Huh? This is kind of an avalanche that would go through, but let's not hope it goes that way.
Well, your risk level is a function of, is this a company that has a good likelihood of surviving? And therefore delaying payment ends up, like we said earlier, cementing the relationship, and you end up getting it and more business from them as a result of being understanding. If they're, not a strong relationship, then you have to take that into consideration. And if they're not solvent, is pushing them to pay you gonna push them into bankruptcy or some kind of other distress? And what's your ability to absorb the bad debt? Because if they can't pay, it's I guess the answer is case by case basis.
Yeah, so we have about 1 minute left, and I wanted to share one comment that one of our attendees shared, that Basecamp is a really great tool. And I have heard great things about that. And before we say goodbye, Ron, did you want to wrap it up and thank our panelists for a great job and great discussion?
Yeah, I think this is really, for me, really good. A lot of good input. I don't know if the people who joined liked it. Please let us know if you like it. We'll see if it makes sense to share this with the community, what we just discussed. I guess so, I think so. Yeah, and if you have feedback, please do so. We could do a follow-up. Please let me know if that would make sense. So I think we didn't cover everything. But for now, I'd really like to thank the panelists and also the contribution of everybody who attended and brought their knowledge to the table. And for me, this was really, really useful.
Thanks, Suzanne, for being the moderator. Awesome job.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you all. Take care.
Bye. All right. Cheers. Bye-bye.